Hello, good evening, and welcome back. So, apparently, satirizing a genocidal dictator who is willing to expunge a whole ethnic group from his country based on their religion in the West is racist. And do you remember the good old days where you might go by a business, you saw that they were doing things or supporting particular movements or express particular views which you didn't agree with, and so in response you just kept walking and just didn't patronize their business? They were the good days. Whereas in modern day, what seems to be different is instead of ignoring it and choosing to take your custom elsewhere, instead of that, you go in, you do buy things from them, you support them financially, you support their business, and then after the fact, you just try and tear them apart. So you take everything that you can from them, and you even support them financially, and then just try and tear them down and just make a thing about it. Which makes you question, surely if it was that bad, you wouldn't have gone in the first place. But nonetheless, story in question from Brian Boy, the Filipino blogger. Controversy grows, not really, over restaurants' racist posters. Racist in scare quotes because they're not. They're satirizing one particular person, Winnie the Pooh, and controversy only because the BBC wishes for it to be that way. And it's so much of a non-issue. And yet the BBC's reporting on it, so I'm going to tear them apart if they wish to make a thing of it, because I don't have a choice if I patronise them or not. I have to because it's UK law. So it's not quite the same here. They're not a private business. So Brian Boy said he found being in the restaurant with the posters awkward. Just awkward. It's a bit peculiar. It's a bit of a weird setting. So we should tear them down. So he said he was shocked to find racist images on the walls of a Stockholm restaurant. Said it wasn't until we placed our order that we noticed all the huge posters on the wall. They're huge posters, but you got to place an order to notice. An illustrated portrait of a very yellow Xi Jinping with bat ears and the term Batman, he said. Yes, he looks like Winnie the Pooh. He's yellow. The restaurant has since removed the posters. Why? You had them up for weeks and it wasn't an issue. As a restaurant in the Swedish capital said, many people have found the exhibition disturbing and racist, which was of course not the intention, adding that it sincerely apologised to anyone that was offended. The artist behind the poster, who publishes work under the name Iron Artworks, said they apologised for any offence caused, but not for the image itself. Yes, exactly. This is my intention. Art is subjective. So if you're offended by it, that's not what I intended for. I think you're being a bit sensitive about it. So, sorry that you're hurt by it. My advice is to not look at it, and maybe then for everybody else to not publicise it, as Brian Boy and the BBC are doing here. They're making it more known to more people, which is great for the exposure for the artist, but not if you're really concerned about this message gaining traction. Good job there. He said, I would not have done it in the first place if I did not stand behind it. I still do, they told the BBC via email. I don't want to hurt people, of course. That is not my intention at all. No, unlike Xi Jinping, the dictator of China, who does intend to hurt people and harvest organs and go after any practice that is against them, including Falun Gong, which is basically just yoga or meditation. But because they had more members than the CCP, the Chinese Communist Party, they decided to take them out, ban it, and harvest their organs. Even though before that they were saying it's a good thing to do, after a couple of false flag attacks, they then thought, now we're going to take him out because we can't have any group that has more numbers than us, which is also why they've taken over the churches in order to then say, yeah, we're changing how the Bible is written and going to be read out to people to make it more in keeping with communism, with Chinese characteristics, to use their quote. And also you've got to have images of Xi Jinping up there as well as Jesus. Yes, we know that you're not allowed to have idols, and worship of idolatry is a sin in Christianity, but that doesn't matter. In China, it's okay because they've rewritten the rules, of course. So Brian Boy, whose real name is Brian Yambao, was dining at the restaurant in the Swedish capital with a friend from Hong Kong on Saturday, who you would have thought would be a bit more understanding of it. He wrote on Instagram he was mortified when he saw the posters. Yes, you can't be mocking a dictator. So moving on, the artwork featured the Chinese president as Batman in an apparent reference to the theory that the coronavirus may have originated in bats. Isn't that supposed to be the accepted view, isn't it? in front of a Japanese-style rising sun. It was installed in the restaurant several weeks ago. And the Japanese-style rising sun, it's the Orient, just because the sun rises in the east. But isn't it supposed to be the accepted view that it came from bats? And therefore what he's saying is, well, Xi Jinping said there wasn't an issue, and then lied to the World Health Organization, and that's what we call the CCP virus, and the World Health Organization, the Chinese Health Organization, even when Taiwan was saying, well, yeah, there's interpersonal transmission, you might want to take note of that. The Chinese Health Organization said, yeah, but Xi Jinping says no, and he's the reason that I'm head of the board from Ethiopia, I believe. So we're going to listen to him instead, because he's the one who's paying us, and you're supposed to be part of China, so we won't listen to you. And in response, of course, was much worse for the world. The Chinese Health Organization just deciding to play politics with people's lives instead of being honest, as they were intended to set up to do so. But hey, China's slowly encroaching around the world, as it tends to do. So they say the pandemic has led to a wave of racism, xenophobia, and even violence directed towards people of Chinese ethnicity, as well as people of East Asian appearance. In one case in London, a student from Singapore was beaten by a group of men who allegedly said, "I don't want your coronavirus in my country." It's one of the things I've picked sure it didn't happen. And it seems, okay, so let me get this straight then. BBC and legacy media, you don't give a shit when the Chinese are being overtly racist towards black people. And you also don't give a shit when quotas and university admissions are set up to decrease the number of Far East Asians and Orientals who are enrolling, that they have to score higher than their white or black peers. You don't care about that. But then if it's a white person, an alleged case of a group of men, obviously because men are the evil sex and white is the evil race, beating someone up, then that's the one. Nothing systemic, not at all. We're not going to claim systemic racism here. We're going to claim it against the black people, not in countries which are racist against black people, like China, but instead in the West, where there are quotas so that they are overrepresented, as in don't need to work as hard or achieve as much in order to get those positions. That's where we're going to claim systemic racism against blacks. It all seems very upside down and back to front, but hey, we're in 2020 now. So the artist said, "My intention was only to make a fool of Xi Jinping, the Chinese Communist Party, and not to make a racist comment that hurt a lot of people. But I accidentally did, and I apologise again to you who feel that way." They wrote in an Instagram post. He's deleted the other post, but he's leaving this one up in order to keep the comments and the conversation going, essentially. And this is the post in question, that Xi Jinping obviously did a shit job. He lied in order to protect himself, because there are talks of a kind of coup, if you will, within the Chinese government to take him out. Now he's removed term limits, of course, so he's president for life, but you know the results before you vote. So, presidentator, cross between a president and a dictator, to use Chris Chappell's word from China Uncensored. And therefore he was concerned that if he did fumble it or he showed it to that he did something bad, then he would be taken out, in which case he tried to hide it, so that not only could he then keep his position within the CCP, but also he could then tell the industries within China, because to be an industry you have to be in collusion with the Chinese government, which is where the Communist part comes in. He told all them to buy up as much personal protective equipment as you could from overseas in order to get it back, in order to put China in the best possible position for when it became a global pandemic, as he expected. He was just going to hold that information back so that the rest of the world could suffer, but China would be doing okay. And if there would be a few million casualties in doing so, he didn't give a shit. It's home to over 1 billion people. He's fine with a few million people dying. His party will lock people inside, weld the doors shut until they die, so that there isn't a case of transmission, of course. They do not give a shit about human rights over there. Free speech is really the least of their worries. As I say, organ harvesting. So Yambao was saying the artist's response was a non-apology. Well, I think given that he's pointing out the utter shit that Xi Jinping is doing, and then you're deciding to take it as, oh, this is about all of us, of East Asians, not just this one person, then that's on you. Otherwise, are we to say that anything that goes against Donald Trump, for example, is an attack on the entire West and it's racist against every white person, because some of them, I'm sure, would be, but the vast majority are just to pick out him. If they then wish to say everybody who agrees with him, then that's on ideological grounds and isn't racist, as bad as it is. But nonetheless, that's still not racist. But are we then supposed to say, oh no, it is? Because if you happen to depict somebody who has a certain skin colour, everybody else with a similar skin colour to them, you're also now targeting. Like, if it was just a blob, a non-accurate depiction of Xi Jinping that's very recognisable, you might have a point, but it's not. And it is a singular here of man instead of men, so it relates to one individual person. It really beggars belief. But there was a thorough debunking and hopefully explanation of why I was there in the first place. But as always, let me know what you guys think down below. Is it now just unacceptable to say anything about dictators because they're foreign, and therefore it's racist if you point out the bad stuff that they're doing? Either way, let me know down below. Always intrigued to hear what you have to say. And as always, until next time, have a good one.